Hi, this is Liz with TWRC Wildlife Center, and today I'm going to tell you what to do if you find a baby bird. So during the spring and summertime, it's very common to be out on a walk or just in your backyard and to find what looks like an orphan baby bird. Your first instinct might be to pick up that bird, put it in a box, and then take it to your local wildlife center or wildlife rehabber for care, but you might be doing more harm than good. I just want to do a side note real quick and say that this video is going to be for songbirds and doves, and not other species like baby hawks, owls, ducklings, or even herons or egrets. If you find those babies, you're going to want to call your local wildlife center or your local wildlife rehabber because the instructions are going to be a little bit different, and then they will tell you what to do. The best chance of survival for a healthy baby songbird or dove is to reunite it with its parents so that it can learn vital skills such as how to find food, how to avoid predators, and even how to do the proper calls so that it can find a mate when it's older. Not all babies are healthy, however, so if you find a baby in one of the following scenarios, it definitely will need to be brought into a wildlife center or wildlife rehabber for medical attention. If you know or suspect that the bird has been caught by a cat, dog, or another predator such as a hawk, we do not recommend picking up a baby bird just because there are cats that live in the neighborhood. Unless the bird is in immediate danger from a cat, for example, a cat is standing in the vicinity and watching the bird, we do not recommend removing a bird from a natural situation in which it is being cared for by its parents. If the bird has an obvious injury or illness, signs include bleeding, wounds, or a displaced limb, which is indicated by the bird dragging a leg or having one wing that hangs differently than the other. Most babies found are too young to fly, and this by itself does not mean that it's injured. If you see flies buzzing around the bird, or if the bird has fly eggs or maggots on it. Fly eggs look like miniature pieces of rice, often clumped together, and maggots look like tiny worms. If you have already brought the bird inside and have had it away from its parents for 24 hours or more, if the bird is found in a parking lot or another location with no yard or green space available for reuniting, if you have put food or water directly into the bird's mouth, and if the bird is acting lethargic, unwell, or not acting normally. Now you may be asking yourself, how will I know if the bird that I found is acting normally? This is going to depend on the age of the bird and also whether the bird is a songbird or a dove. So let's go through what's normal for each. Let's start with the youngest category of baby birds called nestlings. They're called nestlings because they should still be in the nest. They have very few feathers and they're not really able to perch or hop, and they're kind of wobbly still. A healthy baby songbird nestling will open its mouth for food, which we call gaping, will be making peeping noises, and will stand up just for a few moments. If you have a baby songbird that is maybe lethargic or not acting healthy, it will not be gaping and it maybe won't be making very many noises. And you can test this out by tapping on the container that you have the bird in, or maybe just gently touching it with your finger and seeing if it does that gaping reflex. It's important to note here that you should never put food or water directly into the mouth of a baby bird of any age or species. I know it's very hard to resist because they're opening their mouth and begging for food and they're very cute, but if you do, you could cause serious aspiration, which could result in terrible respiratory issues and even death. The best thing you can do if you find a healthy nestling on the ground is to put it back in its original nest. If the nest is too high or was knocked down, then follow these steps to make a false nest and try and reunite it with the parents. Get a plastic butter tub or similar container and punch holes in the bottom for drainage. If the original nest has fallen, you can put that nest inside the container, or you can fill the container with natural materials such as dried grass, pine needles, and leaves. Nail the container to the tree that the baby fell from so that it is stable. Remember, the mom will need to land on it to feed the babies. You want to nail the container on the tree at least 10 to 15 feet from the ground. Place the baby in the container, we're using this little guy as a stand-in here, and go inside and watch from a window. Or if the bird was not found at your home, back far enough away to avoid scaring the mom from coming to the nest. We recommend a distance of at least 40 feet. Watch for at least an hour to see if the mom comes to the nest. You must watch continually rather than just spot check, or you may miss the mom's return. If the mother comes to the baby, the bird is being cared for and no further action is needed. If she does not return, put the baby in a box lined with a t-shirt or a towel and call a wildlife center or independent rehabber to arrange to bring the baby in for care. Now, you may have heard that if you touch a baby bird and get human scent on it, the mother will abandon it. This is actually a myth. Most birds do not have a good sense of smell. The next category of baby birds that are a little bit older are called fledglings. Fledglings are completely covered in feathers, but they still have short tails, and they should be able to hop, perch, and take little flutter flights. Fledglings do jump out of the nest and they spend several days on the ground while they're still learning to fly. And although the parents are still caring for them and feeding them, they will leave them for short periods of time while they're out finding food or taking care of their other fledgling babies, which may have scattered a little bit. Healthy fledglings should be alert, chirping, hopping around, and opening their mouth for food. If you find a fledgling that's really lethargic or just seems to be sleeping all the time, then it needs to be brought into a wildlife center or a wildlife rehabber for help. If you find a healthy fledgling that doesn't have any of the issues that we mentioned at the beginning of the video, then follow these steps to try and reunite it with the parents. Return the bird to the place on the ground where you found it. Watch continually for at least an hour from a window inside your home or at least 40 feet away to see if the mom returns. If the mom comes back, no further action is needed, but if she doesn't, put the baby in a box and contact a wildlife center or a wildlife rehabber. In some cases, it may be unclear whether the bird is a fledgling or a nestling because it might have some characteristics of each, like maybe it's hopping around and perching, but it also still has naked spots on it, or its feathers are still mostly in the pins. In this case, if the bird is a candidate for renesting or reuniting, do the false nest method. Just know that the bird may hop out of the nest if it's old enough, and if it does that, just let it stay on the ground and continue to monitor to see if the parents come to it. Now let's talk about baby doves and pigeons. Just like the baby songbirds, the baby doves and pigeons go through the nestling and the fledgling stages. When they're a nestling, they're pretty much naked and they do have the feathers still in the pins. And then when they're fledglings, they're fully feathered and they're able to hop around. Fledglings do jump out of the nest just like songbirds and spend several days on the ground. But fledgling doves and pigeons do behave a little bit differently than the songbirds do. You can tell if you have a baby songbird or a baby dove by looking at their beak. Baby songbirds have a wide beak with gape phalanges, which is an area of soft tissue, usually a white or yellow color, at the sides of the beak. Baby doves have a narrow beak with a bump or widening of the beak close to the face. It's important to identify whether you have a baby songbird versus a dove or a pigeon, because doves and pigeons don't hop around as much as songbirds. They tend to sit still in one place, and they also don't open their mouth begging for food. So this behavior in a songbird would be something that we would want to bring in because it's not normal, but in a dove or pigeon, it's perfectly normal. Although they are not normally as active as songbirds, baby doves and pigeons should still appear alert and may also be making soft sounds. These doves are an example of normal behavior versus behavior of a dove in need of medical help. As you can see, the dove on the right is alert, has his eyes open, is moving around a little bit, and is making soft whistling sounds. The doves on the left, however, are very lethargic, not moving or making noise, and keeping their eyes closed even when touched. This behavior indicates that you should not attempt to reunite them, but that instead they should be brought into a wildlife center for help. An older fledgling dove may be more wary of humans and therefore may not make sounds, but if it is alert like the one in this video and has none of the other signs that it is in need of help, it would be a good candidate for attempting to reunite with the parent. Another difference between baby doves and baby songbirds is the size of their crop. The crop is an area in the esophagus that serves as a temporary storage space for food. Baby doves have a much larger crop than baby songbirds, and the parents will fill that crop all the way up. So if you have a baby dove, just look at the neck area or maybe just feel it gently with your hand, and if it feels or looks full, then you know that the parent is still taking care of that bird. To reunite baby doves with their parents, you're going to want to use the same methods that we gave you for the songbirds. So if you have a nestling, just use the nestling method. If you have a fledgling, use the fledgling method. But just know that the parents may take longer to return because that crop is so full. So I would give the dove parents a few more hours to come back versus what we told you to do for the songbirds. If the bird is not a candidate for reuniting with the parent, or if you attempted to reunite but the parent did not return, follow these instructions until you can get it to a wildlife center or a wildlife rehabber. Find a box that can be closed and punch small holes in it for air. Line it with a soft material such as a t-shirt, towel, or crumpled up paper towels or toilet paper. Place the baby bird inside. Keep the baby bird warm. You can do this by placing the box half on, half off a heating pad set on low. Just make sure the heating pad doesn't shut off. You can also use a rice sock or a plastic bottle filled with hot water wrapped in a cloth, but know that these methods will cool within a few hours and you must reheat them. If it's warm outside, you can also put the box in an enclosed garage since it will be warmer than the temperature inside your home. Do not, under any circumstances, attempt to feed the babies or give them water. Placing water or food in the mouth of a bird will likely result in aspiration, pneumonia, and even death. The babies should be fine going without food or water if you need to keep them overnight and get them to a wildlife center or rehabber the following day. And that's the end of our video about what to do if you find a baby bird. Thank you very much for watching and helping wildlife in need.